There we go. I remembered to record. I would like to say that today's session has been kindly donated by the Connect to Community grant through the Center of Community Engaged Living. At this time, we'd like to say thank you for covering the costs not only associated with today's learning session tonight, but also the completed ready-to-use handouts that will be arriving in the mail after your session tonight. And of course, that will depend on where you live and what your roads look like as to how fast that gets to you, obviously. And I would also like to send out a huge thank you. She's not here right now. I'm hoping she'll be able to hop on at a later date, at a later time, but Tiffany Waugh, who she secured these funds to make this project happen, and she's really been doing a lot of the background work to make sure that all of this is working for all of our families tonight. And so thank you, Tiffany. Not that you're here, but you are being recorded. So I was going to introduce these two amazing speakers, but they're going to introduce themselves tonight. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Karina.
Okay, so we are going to share. So I guess you guys don't have the handouts right now, but you'll get them after. Okay. So yeah, okay, I'll start. So I'm Karina Duffett, and it just takes a minute, hang on, to do that little switch around.
Okay, there we are.
And I'm a speech and language pathologist. I'm originally from Newfoundland, so I'm a Newfoundlander. Just got back, I was there for a month. That was an adventure. I've been living in British Columbia since 1993, I think. So I'm a British Columbian now. You know, I live in Langley. I originally moved here to complete my master's degree at UBC. And I've been working with Surrey School District ever since I graduated. So that's like 24 years now. Doesn't seem like it should be that long, but it is. I started working in AAC just after my daughter's birth. So I was on mat leave with her. And a position came open, like the first position, and I'm like, yeah, I'll take it, because I had done my practicum with the one and only AAC guru, Lorraine Camp, who was the only AAC person in Surrey at the time. So I'm like, yes, Lorraine, I will come work with you. And I've been doing that ever since. I'm currently on a leave of absence from Surrey School District, not entirely sure that I'm going to go back at this point. May just stay in private practice, just because the level of, I think, professional satisfaction of actually being able to do therapy is just vastly different than working in a school district with a huge caseload that you can't really deal with. So I've also been married for 24 years to my husband, Darren. We have 3 kids, one young adult, I guess, and 2, they're all young adults, I don't know. 2 are still in their teens. And we have a rescue dog and a rescue cat. So that's me, and this is Jennifer.
I'm Jennifer Wiegert, and I was born in Calgary, and I've been out in BC probably since 91, I think. So around the same time as you, Karina. And I did my master's degree in Bellingham, Washington. So I actually commuted over the border every day for 3 years to university down there from North Delta. And then I ended up getting a job in Ferndale, Washington. It's a little town between Blaine and Bellingham. And I stayed there for 17 years. I did my internship, I got hired with them, and it was wonderful. And I commuted for 17 more years over the border. And then decided to come back closer to home. And so I'm working part-time, really, really part-time, because this year I've gone down to 1 day a week, not quite as absent as Karina, but 1 day a week in Surrey. And on the AAC team, there's 7 of us now who cover the entire district for Surrey. And I've been married for 22 years to my husband, and we have 18-year-old twin boys. And I have a bunny, a little house bunny, Dory, and I got a puppy during COVID, like a lot of us did, a mini Aussie named Roman. So that's been an adventure.
Yeah. He's adorable though. Okay.
Oh, and okay, so Karina and I, we joined our private practices. We can't believe it's been almost 4 years since we started Chickadee. And we specialize in AAC. So individuals who have complex communication needs, who need some form of augmentative and alternative communication, that's our passion. And so we've really focused our niche clientele on that. And we love providing therapy and finding solutions for our clients that have challenges in that area. And, whoops, something happened there. Okay, we also wrote an AAC curriculum for 2 of the colleges who have the educational assistant program. So they train the EAs for the schools, and we teach those EAs in that program how to implement AAC. Which has been wonderful because there are so many students now who have access to high tech. And so it's so prevalent that it's great that we're able to train these EAs before they get on the job. So we've been doing a lot of that. And then we do lots of consulting and training and these type of workshops for teams to help them get started with AAC. So we're really happy to be here tonight with you, and we hope that you can find this information helpful and can use it in your lives.
Okay. So our schedule for the next hour, we'll start by going over the communication board itself and how we've organized it, and then we'll go on to talk about aided language input or modeling, which really doesn't matter whether it's this communication board or this communication system. Any communication system you are using with your loved one, aided language input is the key to success. Okay, so Jennifer's going to talk about aided language input, and then we'll talk about identifying a consistent yes, no. And we'll go on to scanning and what that is and what it looks like. And then we'll take some questions and discussion. We'll leave some time for that. Okay. So I don't know. Do you guys have a copy of the board? They don't, right, Kristen? Yeah, no, not yet. Okay. So yeah, our slideshow seems to have a little bit of a lag. So this is I don't know if you can see it. We do have a picture later, but this is a picture or a view of the board that you'll be getting in the mail. So it's got an alphabet board on the back, and it's just got a core board on the front. Okay, we do have a picture coming up on a slide, so you'll see that. So a communication board is a low tech form of augmentative and alternative communication. Okay, it's paper-based. Yours will be laminated. That's absolutely essential. So there is an array of symbols on the board, and they have text and core words on this particular board. We'll go over what core words are in just a minute. We wanted to make sure we had core words that really allowed you to target different language functions. Okay, which we will also go over, so hang tight. It's not topic specific. So this isn't a board that you would only use while cooking or only use in the bathroom or only use while playing. It's core, so it's meant to be used in as many different environments or contexts as you can, right? It should be just a general use board. Okay. It's also not exhaustive and not robust. Okay. It's limited, right? It's one page with a core board of an alphabet board on the back. So it's not like a vocabulary of, thousands of words that your loved one would have if they were using SuperCore or Touch Chat. So it's much more limited. And it's not robust in the sense that it doesn't have, again, all of those words, but it also doesn't have like grammatical markers.
Like
a big amount of
descriptive vocabulary.
Doesn't have a big amount of vocabulary.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a core word board. Oh, what did I do? But it does allow for quick functional communication. And if you don't have a system for your loved one yet, or you're still waiting, or you're not sure, this is still a really good place to start. Okay. Oh, Oh, so here it is. Okay, so the front of the core board looks like this. Okay, and then the back is an alphabet board for spelling. Okay, so you can see we've color coded it a little bit, and we will talk about that. We'll go over what each color group is, basically. Okay, so core words. First of all, core words are the words that are most frequently used when we speak. Okay, and they tend to be little words, like almost like sight words. If you guys remember what your sight words were like in school, those words that you had to remember how to spell. Yeah. Okay, we've got a bit of a lag. Sorry. Core words make up 80% of what we say. So most of a sentence would be core words, and you might have like 1 or 2 fringe words or nouns in there. Okay, so core words tend to be like verbs, prepositions, pronouns, descriptors. On, go, put, where, more, have, see, want, I. So that's what our language is mostly made up of. And then we'll pop a fringe word in, or a noun, as a referent. So, you know, it could be, I want to go to McDonald's. So I want to go to, they're all core words. And then you have one little fringe, McDonald's. Okay, so you can do a lot with those words because those make up 80% of what we say. Okay, however, they can be really difficult to put a picture to. They're difficult to symbolize sometimes. Although symbol companies do a great job of it, but they're not nouns. We don't speak in nouns, right? We don't walk away around saying shirt, cup, hair, boot, sock. That makes no sense, right? So mostly core words, and then we have the fringe words. But fringe words are important. They're important to your loved ones. They're important to us, okay? So they're nouns, they're people, places, and things. And honestly, sometimes these things are the things that are really important to them,
Yeah.
right?
This
is
motivating.
And they're motivating, very motivating. Sometimes this is how we get a kid to communicate. Mm-hmm. And they're very easy to symbolize because they're concrete things, right? You can symbolize fries, you can symbolize places, you can photograph them. So that makes it easy too, right? So these are important for your loved one to have. Like, it'd be great for you to have little photo albums, or even like this is a little hex binder really that we've put together just to show how you could have this as an adjunct. So this would be like a page of their favorite food, a page of their favorite activities. I think the next one is song choices. The song choices, you could have a page with their favorite people or their favorite places. So those are important, but we couldn't possibly put them onto a core board because they're going to be different and individualized for every person, for every communicator, okay? But you would use the core board along with the fringe activity. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. If you don't have any fringe, like if you don't have a fringe album for your loved one, you can just take photos of their favorite things, attach a little bit of Velcro, or even just use one of those little photo albums that you can get at Walmart or the dollar store, just so that they can flip through and see their favorite things there, okay? So they're very personal. If you have a high-tech system, we would just add all of this in and customize and personalize that vocabulary, okay? So they have both then. They have their core and their fringe. So why would we use a communication board? To enhance and increase the functional communication for those who have limited expressive capabilities, okay? It allows for communication in any environment and any context. Okay. It's also lightweight, portable, waterproof, and very inexpensive. Okay. So very easy to just grab, take it with you anywhere. Okay. If you lose it, you can print it off again, right? So with this core board, what we did was we tried to organize it by color. So that was really easy to see, like, do you want a blue word? Are you thinking of a green word? But also a little bit by function. Okay, so the functions of communication, there are many. So this is not an exhaustive list. But actions, we have lots of actions, right? We want to express action. We want to talk about things that happened. Questioning is a function of communication. Commenting on things that have happened or are happening is also a function of communication. Negation, saying no, very important function of communication. Cessation, or saying that you would like something to stop, that you want no more of it, also a function. That you want continuation of an activity, that you want something to change. So the list for functions is quite long. Feelings and physical states, that's an important one. Time concepts, expressing time. So we try to put the real important ones that you can use in different contexts onto the board, okay? And so this, we're just going to show you a little video. So this video, there's a speech pathologist who's just using the word stop, but she's showing you all the different functions or ways in which stop can actually be used, okay? And this is really powerful when you think of a core board, because you only need one button to say all of these different things, okay? Or one picture. So we'll let you have a look at that. What's this sound? It should be.
Now let's practice using our word stop for different functions of communication. I could direct somebody to stop by saying, stop it. I could use the word stop to request repetition. For instance, during a book reading, we may say, don't stop, do more. I could label or name using the word stop by saying that is a stop sign. I could use the word stop to take turns. I could say, stop, it's my turn. We can use the word stop to negotiate.
Can we stop it doing math and start reading?
We could express feelings and direct actions by using the word stop.
Stop, that hurts.
We could use stop to relay past and future events by saying, we were at the zoo and it started to rain a lot, so we had to stop and go home.
Okay, so one word, but she used it in many different contexts and environments. Okay, so that's, I mean, a demonstration of the power of core words, but also of, I guess, how much mileage you can get by just a simple core board, right? So with this core board, we try to pick the actions. Actions that were very useful and very, that you might get the most mileage from. Clearly, there's a lot more actions than this, right? But want is something that, I don't know, we do this all day long. We want things all day long. Go, we go places easy. So that's really easy for you to model, right? Telling someone to look, I want to look, give me, give that. Need, come, open, get, finish, have, put, and tell. And so we made them green. I just think it's an easy way to help one with the scanning, but also just that visual anchor, I think, to have the color coding on the board. So you would use the green words to talk about what is happening, what did happen, what might happen in the future, or even what you want to do, and obviously to direct someone else, right? Stop is somewhere else, by the way. There is a stop on the board, don't worry. So you might, you know, your loved one might want to be telling you to come here, right? Or that they're finished, right? Or to put something somewhere. Again, it's not exhaustive. But I think these are, I mean, I know from my experience modeling, these are probably the words that you will model the most throughout the day.
You'd be surprised how much you can use these words in all activities that you do.
Any activity. And that's really the key,
Yeah.
right? So then we have, I think this is a bigger than usual feelings display for a core board, but we wanted to make sure that you had enough feelings to go through, like the real physical, hungry, thirsty, sick and tired. I think those are really important. And happy, sad, angry, bored, and scared. Feelings, as we know, can be really difficult to teach. It can be difficult sometimes for our loved ones to relate and to learn the proper language. So we really suggest modeling a lot what you're feeling. So you can say, you know what, I feel tired right now. And you would be pointing to this one. I think I need a nap, right? I'm tired. For your loved ones, if they're not at a stage where they're really expressing how they feel, you might want to try to link what it is that you see, what you think they're feeling, try to express that for them. So you might say, you know what, you look tired. You look tired to me. You're yawning. You're having trouble keeping your eyes open. You're tired. Would you like to take a break? So you might have to do a lot of modeling, and this is typical. We're always doing a lot of modeling around feelings, and just trying to help our kids, understand what words they need, because these are really important words, right? We want to know how they're feeling. We want them to express how they're feeling. Gray words. Gray words are questions. Again, really important to have question words on there, because even if your child or your loved one isn't expressing questions now, I mean, there's so many reasons why they might not be. They might not have access to that language, but they also may not have the modeling experience, I guess, or the background to understand how to use them. But they probably do have questions. They're probably sitting there with questions, right? So help them understand how to use this area of the board. You would model, oh, you know what? I have a question. I'm wondering, when are we going to the movie? So you would point to when and say, when are we going to the movie? I didn't check to see, right? Or I wonder, if you hear the phone ring or the doorbell go, I wonder who is at the door? Who could be there? So we want them to have access to those question words, because they do have the right to ask questions, right? They might be wondering the same things. Yellow words are people. So we limited this to just the I, me, you, he, she, or it. Typically you'll see mine, your on a board as well, but we didn't want to have too much. We didn't want to take up, we wanted to make sure we had some other words. So, oh my gosh, sorry. When you're using the board, you could ask your loved one, we're going to go over this after, but you could say, is it a people word? And if you get a yes, is it I or me? Is it you? Is it he or she? Is it it? But I would also highly recommend that you use the people, like if it's a people word, if you ask your loved one, did you want to select a people word? And they say yes, it would be great if you did have a little photo album of the people in their lives, so that they could tell you specifically who it is they're talking about or wondering about or thinking about. Okay. So for instance, if they say he or she, then you might want to bring out the album and say, oh, did you want to see your photo album? Is it somebody in your photo album? Because if it's I or you, you're right there, right? So that's an instance where I would really strongly suggest having the photo album. And then we just have a few little time words, but I think these are really good time words. You can talk about when events and activities are happening or when they will happen. You know, is this happening now? Or do you want to do this now? No. Do you want to do it later? Yes. They might need to tell you to wait, right? No, you need to wait. I'm not ready. Or you might be checking with them to see if they're ready. They could let you know when they're ready. So just a few time words. These in particular, wait and ready. I would say later too, especially if you have a teenager in the house. Yeah, later. Again, just important words that you could use in many different contexts, right? So you might even be telling your loved one, right? You know what? No, we're doing this now. This has to happen now. We can't do it later. Okay. Just so they get to understand the symbols, the words, the concepts. Purple words are comments. We have 2 positives, 2 negatives. Which again is not like, it's not enough, but it's something, right? So you could ask while you're scanning, did you have a comment? What did you think? You could model. I think that's awesome, right? If something happens, say if something falls or something, I don't know, doesn't go the way it should, you could be modeling, uh-oh, right? No way, the most like negative one that I guess we have on there, but we also have not, and we have later, and we have no, and we have stop. So just a small sampling of comments. So you have something, right? We also, we'll get to it, but we also have a like and a don't like. The physical needs, we wanted to make sure that you could, or that your loved one could request snack, drink, or break if necessary. Okay. Again, these ones would link to photos or picture choices that you could have in a little album, right? So if they indicate that they want a snack, then you would say, okay, let's see, do you want fries? And you would wait for their yes, no. No. Do you want pasta? Yes. All right, pasta it is. Let's get some pasta. Okay. So I think especially, well, I mean, it doesn't matter, I guess, the age, but depending on the individual, you might be able to just do an auditory scan. Oh, you want a snack? Do you want a smoothie? And you're waiting for a yes, no. Or do you want ice cream? You're waiting for a yes, no. Okay, it depends. You might need the actual physical pictures, but you might be able to just do it with an auditory scan as well. And yeah, if you were using these for some of them, like you would say, oh my gosh, to model, I'm hungry, I need a snack. So you would point to hungry and then snack. If you do a feeling word scan with your loved one and they indicate that they're thirsty, then you would, I guess, affirm with them, oh, you're thirsty, I think you need a drink. Okay, let's go see, what do you want? Okay. And then, yeah, you would use them with your fringe words that were specific to those things. Break time activities, again, really personal to each individual. So it might be just chilling with a movie or listening to music. It could just be being alone in your room. It could be playing with a favorite toy. Okay. But that's a good opportunity to offer choices. Urgent, help, stop, and hurt. So if your loved one seems to be upset or in distress, this could be a good place for you to start on the board, right? It could be, oh my goodness, you know what? You're really upset. Do you need help? Do you want me to stop? Do you need this to stop? Does something hurt? Okay. Ooh, that one. And I did them in red. I almost always turn the help button red because I want it to be immediately recognized for kids. Okay, so these are the only 3 pink buttons that they have, and they're about urgent needs. And then along the top, the very top row on the left-hand side, you'll have a yes and an I like it. Okay. And here, the yes symbol, I think this is really useful if you want, I mean, I know for the most part, a lot of our girls with Rett will look to you for a yes, or they'll look away or do nothing for a no, which is great. Not always super clear if you don't know them well. I don't know how often they're going to be with someone who doesn't know them well, but it's still great for them to learn the symbol for yes, the symbol for no, because it is helpful, right, for unfamiliar communicators. And we want to be able, them to be able to express their like for something. This is also a comment, right? Do you like it? Yes, awesome, okay. And again, when you're modeling, if you can see that your loved one is really enjoying something, then this is a really good time to say that, you know what, I think you really like this. I like it too, right? Make sure you're modeling things. Make sure you're modeling I like it when you're doing something that you enjoy as well. And then on the right hand side, we have the I don't like it and no, just for negation and displeasure, right? Being able to express when you don't like something, which is very important. Okay. And then in the middle, we put an I don't know, because that happens sometimes, right? Maybe they don't quite know what they think or how they feel about something, and that's okay. We all do that sometimes. And sometimes you might need to be modeling, you know what, I don't know what you're trying to tell me right now, or I don't know, I'm not sure how you're feeling about that. And that's okay too. This is a good button for them to be able to recognize and use. Okay, I had a little comment about scanning and not knowing, but I think I'll wait until we go over the scanning so that it might make more sense to you then. Okay, and then we have a couple of other things on the board. We have more for continuation. So if your loved one wants to do more of something, or if they've had enough, they want to stop and they want to choose something different because they didn't like what you were doing. So we want to make sure that they have a way to express that as well. Okay, so we have different and more. Okay, and then on the back of the core board, we have the alphabet or spelling board. And this is a great tool for those who are literate or have some emerging literacy skills. I would say that if you have a loved one who really isn't literate yet, or has not really been even introduced to the alphabet and spelling and sounds, and that's certainly the case when they're really little, this is probably not the best tool. This might not work all that great for them because they're not going to know enough just about letters and letter sounds and how to make words. But if you have access, and I mean, I'm sure you do, if you have the Rett University Alpha Flip books, and even some of the recordings that they have on the Rett University website for getting started with literacy, that's a good place to start if you have someone who's not able to spell yet. However, if they can, on this board, we have the vowels in red, we have the consonants in black, and then we have some commands and buttons that allow for communication repair. The punctuation is simple. You've got an exclamation mark, a question, a comma, and a period. So not too much. Again, just a simple core board. And you would use this with a paper and a pen or a dry erase board. So you can write out what your loved one is trying to spell. Okay. So for instance, if I'm just thinking, Jennifer and I could probably give you a little, yeah, should we do that at the end? Okay, we'll do it at the end. Yeah. We'll do it at the end. Okay. Okay, and now Jennifer's going to talk to you about aided language input, which is very important for the successful use of the board.
Okay. So you're thinking probably, okay, I've got this board with all these words that my child does not know. How am I going to teach them to use this? Okay, so I'm going to give you some ideas on how we do this. And it's the same approach that we use for students who are on low tech, on high tech, on objects. We use the same approach, aided language input, for all of these systems. Okay, so it's something we use across all systems within our field. It's a very powerful way. So I want you to think about this as a language system, as a language, okay? It's not a visual schedule, right? A visual schedule is something that tells us what's happening and when it's happening, okay? It's not a choice board. It's not a whole book of nouns where we can choose certain things that we want, right? That's this book that Karina made, the Fringe book. This would be more of a choice board. This is not a choice board, it's a language system. So when you think about it that way, it kind of helps us figure out how we're going to implement it, because we communicate using language. So when we have our calendars and our schedules at home, we don't use these to communicate, right? We use these to look at what we're doing and what's happening. When we have our menus and we go to a restaurant, or when we're figuring out what to do on the weekend and we want to watch Netflix, that's a menu, right? We're trying to figure out and make a choice, but we don't talk with a menu, right? It's not a language. It's just simply making choices. So think about our individuals with complex communication needs. They cannot rely on schedules and choice boards to communicate. We need to give them more, okay? They need core words to be able to communicate effectively. And so that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about a system that is an actual language system for them. It's more than choices and more than schedules. So we have lots of formalized language systems, okay? We have spoken language, we have written language, sign language, AAC, okay? These are all different forms of language, but just because you know how to do, oh my goodness, just because you know how to speak English does not mean that you can speak in sign language, right? Just because you speak in French does not mean that you can speak in Punjabi. So each of these languages is a language in itself, and they're very different from one another. So we need to remember that when we're trying to work with our individuals teaching this core board, because they don't know this language. It's a completely different language than what we use to communicate with each other verbally. So how are we going to teach the child to use this system? So think about how we learn a new language, okay? So if someone handed you a big dictionary of German words, would you start speaking German? Probably not, right? If we handed your child all these words, would they start using it? Probably not, okay? If someone started showing you a bunch of flashcards with German vocabulary, then would you start speaking German? Maybe not. You might become more familiar with some of the vocabulary, but you're likely not going to start speaking it just from seeing flashcards over and over again. Okay, so, but if you're immersed in the German language, okay, if everyone that you interact with is speaking in German to you, and our PowerPoint's really slow.
It's gonna pop.
I know. Oh, is it listening to it? Oh my goodness. Okay, sorry about that. So you're hearing German words and phrases, and they're repeatedly in familiar context, in context that you live in every day. And you start to understand the words that are important for you in your life. Like, okay, I want to watch Yellowstone tonight. I know what that means because I really like that show. And whenever that show comes on, somebody says Yellowstone. So you're connecting it to things that are familiar and relevant in your life. After consistent immersion, you're going to start to understand that language, and eventually you'll start to speak it. But it's going to take time. And that's one thing that we really need to reinforce, is how much time it takes to start to use these systems, and you need to give individuals that time to learn it, because it takes longer than we would like. We tend to get a bit impatient. So just waiting here. Okay, so what do we need to do for our individuals to speak AAC? We need to speak this language. If we want them to use this language to communicate, we need to speak the language too, okay? Because there's pretty good odds that everyone around them is not speaking this language. They're speaking verbally, right? So if you have verbal communication and you have AAC in whatever form you're talking about, it's not the same language. These are two completely different languages. And so your individual or your loved one is not going to learn how to communicate in this language if nobody else is speaking it to them. They need to hear it, and they need to see this language being used in context in order to learn how to speak it. Okay, so that brings us to our strategy. So we want to use aided language input. Sometimes it's called modeling. Sometimes it's called aided language stimulation. So there's different terms that we use for it. It's all the same thing. So basically, it's a method of modeling language for the AAC user in the way that they are going to communicate. So I'm going to speak verbally to the individual while pointing to pictures or symbols on their communication system. So if I'm going to say, okay, are you ready? It's time to go. Where's go? It's time to go. We need to finish what we're doing. And let's see, we need to get our shoes, get our coat, and get ready to go. Okay, so I am touching those words while I'm speaking verbally. So they're seeing me speak AAC. Okay, I'm not pointing to every single word I said there. I pointed to keywords. I said, go, get, finish. I don't know what else I said.
Lots of gets.
Yeah, yeah. So I said those words for them while I pointed, but I still spoke in complete sentences and used proper grammar, okay? So when you do this, don't expect or demand a response, okay, from your AAC user. And what we use the phrase model without expectation, because you don't want to put pressure on that individual to start speaking a language that they don't know. Okay. At the beginning, you're simply teaching them the language. You're speaking it and speaking it and speaking it so that they can gain an understanding of it. Because remember, when we talk to our little babies, when they're infants and they're starting to learn language, we don't expect our 2-month-old babies to start talking back to us. Okay. And we don't get frustrated after 6 months when they're still not talking. Okay. We've talked to them for that whole time without expectation. We're not expecting them to talk back, but we're input. We're giving them so much language. I'm just going to peek at the chat here. Okay, great. People are, what?
I don't even know what to say. Go ahead.
Okay. So instead of asking questions, so we don't want to constantly question our individuals, right? So instead of questioning them, I say, oh, you know what? I think you're telling me that you are thirsty. You keep looking at the sink or at the water bottle over there. I think you're telling me that you're thirsty. Or say, oh, instead of saying, where are we going? Say, oh, we're going to go to McDonald's, or we're going to go to the pool or to Starbucks or wherever we're going. Oh, it looks like, so instead of saying, how do you feel? Tell me how you feel. What are you feeling right now? They might not be able to do that because they don't know how to talk this language yet. So you are going to kind of guess what you think they might be feeling. I'm wondering, you have kind of a sad face right now. Maybe you're sad or maybe you're tired or you're bored. Maybe you don't like this and you want to do something different. Maybe you want to stop. And so you're kind of guessing and interpreting what they might be thinking and wanting to say and pointing to those words as you're saying it, okay? And then they can confirm, but you're showing them that when they actually feel that way and they have the ability to understand this whole system, now they know what to say and how they can say it. But they're not going to know that at the beginning. We need to show them how to do it. We need to be models for them, speaking their language, okay? What else do we say here? I am scared. That movie was really scary, or that it's so windy out. That was making me scared. Did you hear that? I wonder what that was last night. So I'm touching words while I'm speaking, okay? So here's a super short video of somebody modeling using the word in, okay?
In. In. Going in.
Okay, so they were modeling within the context of playing with a toy, okay? So I want you to think about 3 important things when we are wanting to teach individuals how to use this system. There are 3 things that we need to think about. And if they'll pop up on the screen, I'll tell you. Okay, aided language input. They need to experience someone speaking their language. So we need to be models. We need to model this language that we want them to use to communicate. If nobody else is speaking this language, they're not going to learn it. Okay, we need to be good models for them. And we need to use the language for things that are motivating for them. So for genuine communication, for talking about things that happen in our everyday lives, we communicate because we want to connect with one another. We don't communicate to test each other, to drill each other, right? We connect by communicating. And we get our basic needs met. So if you find that, okay, your loved one is always trying to tell you that they're too hot or they're too cold, but they don't have a way to do that, then we need to start modeling it on here for them so that they can learn how to tell us that so that we can help them. And the third one is that this is a huge one. At the beginning, you are going to be the one touching the board over and over and over again, and your child is likely not going to be giving you much output. And that's a really hard thing for parents and educators to understand, that at the beginning, it's input, input, input. You are modeling and giving them the language so that they can learn it receptively. Because when we learn a new language, we understand before we speak it. When we're teaching our typically developing children and they develop speech, we speak to our babies for an entire year. Input language, communication, input context, input vocabulary before they talk back to us, right? So at the beginning, you're going to be doing all the work. And then as they develop an understanding of it, then they'll start to use it. And so I feel like we tend to have these really strange expectations of children with complex communication needs. And we seem to like hand them these systems and say, okay, here's your words. Now you should be able to talk. And I don't know why we do that. They just, and especially in the schools, we see the EAs saying, well, you know, he's had it for a week and it's not working. So we always tell them, just keep, even though you don't see output, it does not mean that they're not learning. They are learning, they're gaining knowledge. Okay, it's just hard to see it when they're not giving you anything back. But keep going, because if you're modeling language, you're doing the right thing. Okay. Be realistic about your expectations, okay? Remember that it's a language, so we think about it through a language lens. Like I said, we talk for an entire year before we expect our children to speak. It's the same thing with this language, right? Okay, it's jumping ahead again. Don't demand output while we model language for them. It's okay for us just to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, okay? Without having them talk back at the beginning, because they're gaining input. And remember that we gain an understanding before we use language. Even when we're learning a foreign language, we often understand it before we start to use it. So if you look at all of these AAC systems as language and frame it within the context of learning language, it really helps you to have realistic expectations of where you should be and not to demand things too soon from your loved ones, because we tend to do that for some reason. Okay, so Karina's going to talk about a yes and no, which you need to do scanning when they do start to use their system. Once they become familiar with all of the words, then they can start to use it to communicate back to you. So Karina's going to talk about that.
And so while you're going over words on the board, you're going to want you want it to have a really clear yes, especially, okay? Just so that you'll know that you've hit on the right thing and they've given you that information that you need to know what it is they're trying to convey, right? So for yes, a yes signal, or I guess a yes signal can be, it varies depending on the student or the child, right? So it can be a nod. It can be a nod for yes. They can use a button, right? Some of our kids, this is a Big Mac. I know that there are some school teams where they're really, really big on having a yes and no button, and that the student learns to use them because they want that yes, no to be really well understood by people who are not familiar. It could be a hand gesture or a vocalization for yes. It really depends on the individual. My experience with girls with Rett especially is that you'll just get that look, like that direct eye contact right away when it's a yes, right? They'll just look at you and you know, yep, that's it. And oftentimes if it's a no, they just won't look at you, or just ignore or do nothing, right? You go too far. So it's really important to understand what your loved one's yes is. And if they don't have a really clear yes yet, that might be something that you might need to work on. And again, it's going to depend on what your child can do. They may be able to, give you a nod. They may be able to hit the button for yes. The buttons, I mean, the thing with having a button that says yes, no, it's great in school, I think, but theoretically we don't always have those buttons with us. So if they have a more natural way to indicate yes, then that's great. And so what we do recommend when you're working or playing with your child and you say, you give them like an option of something that's preferred. So it might be, oh, do you want to listen to BTS? I think I've got a BTS parent on here tonight. And all of a sudden that child's eyes are on you because they heard BTS, right? Then you can say, oh, you know what? You looked at me that time. I think you want BTS. I think you're telling me, yes, I want BTS, right? So you're kind of reinforcing the use of that gesture as a yes for them, and they'll get to know from your feedback that that's what I should do when I want something. I should look right at you because it lets you know that you've hit on the right thing, right? So again, that could vary depending on your loved one, what their yes, no is going to look like, but it is important because they need to be able to tell you when you've hit the right symbol, okay? And you can also, like, sometimes, again, depends on the individual. If you have a really clear no as well, then that can really make the scanning and the use of the communication board a little bit faster, but it can also be more fatiguing. Like if you have to do this or this, or, you know, do a vocalization and then like a turn away, it can just be more fatiguing. But the child can control the speed of communication then more so than you, because what's going to happen when you're scanning, can you just page ahead? So with partner assisted scanning, the communication partner, so oftentimes that's the adult, right? You're showing or pointing to rows or columns, and you're speaking also what the button says, and then you're waiting attentively for a response from your loved one, right? So, and I say column, row, or section because really there's no right or wrong or set rule for whether you scan across or whether you scan up or down. It just, if you do teach a scan pattern, so if you decide I want to go down each column, then stick with that, because your loved one is going to become really familiar with that, and that's going to make that whole process faster, right? Don't mix it up. Just decide how you want to do it, how that makes sense to you, and stick with it. Okay. So what you would do, you might say, okay, so I think you have something to say, right? And then you might go like this. You might say, is it in this column? Okay. And they might not do anything. That might be a no. Okay. And you'll say, okay, no. Is it in this column? And they might not do anything. So that's a no. Okay. Is it in this column? Yes. Now they're looking at you right away. Yes. Oh, it's in this column. Oh, okay. Is it, I like it? Different? Is it, I like it? You're going to wait. No. Okay. Is it different? And now they're looking at you. That's their yes. You're saying, oh, you're telling me different. Do you want something different? And they look at you again. And you go, okay, let's do something different. Okay. So you really, I mean, depending on how, I guess, comfortable and familiar your loved one is with the AAC system, you might need to give a lot of wait time, right? Or they might just have it now and it's going to be quick. Okay, but in the beginning, you might be repeating yourself. You might be waiting a long time.
So you can just see how long you have to model for them so that they become familiar with all of the words on here.
Absolutely.
And even though this is a very small communication system, it will still take time to learn these words.
Just these words.
Yeah. So you have to model them for a while before they're able to use it as a system.
Yeah.
But you can use this for so many things.
Right. Right. And so if it's a no, obviously, if it's a no, then you go on to the next word. But if it's a yes, then you can, give that affirmation. Oh, okay, you're telling me something different. If you have, like, if your loved one usually likes to say like a lot, you might want to write down. Okay, so do you want, I'll write that down. You're saying different. Do you have more to say? They look at you. Okay, then you start all over again. So you got the word different, right? They have more to say, then you're going to start your scan pattern again, the same way. When they're finished, and you'll just continue until they let you know that they have no more to say. Okay. Which will probably be you saying, do you have more to say? And they're not looking at you, or they're indicating no, however they indicate no. Okay. And then you just repeat their message and you go on from there, however you would go on from there. I mean, if you have a teenager, maybe they're telling you they don't want to do something and you're saying, oh, thanks for telling me, but, right. You just continue as you would.
Or they just
also,
don't respond.
or they just don't respond ever. So the other thing with this board, once you're familiar with it and your child or loved one is familiar with it, you can start saying like, is it a green word? Is it a green word you want to say?
It's faster.
Right? Is it a blue word? So with time and practice, it will become just much more fast. It will become fast and efficient for you both. Okay. That's it for that one.
Yeah, are you good?
Yeah.
Okay, just
Yeah,
making sure.
Okay, and so this is just a column scan you'll see in this video, not a row. I think This is a
Here is an example of a picture chart being used in partner-assisted row column scanning. What did you think of your coffee today, Jamie? Is it on the top row? Second row? Third row? Fourth row? Fifth row? Sixth row? Your like delicious. Oh, it was delicious. Oh, gosh.
So you could see how much faster it was to not have to say a no,
right.
to just do the
He's got a vocal
no
yes.
response. Yeah.
And he's obviously familiar with where everything on that board is because he was pretty fast, right? Okay, so this is just a cute little way to end. We are going to show you a little. Sometimes you really don't know what to do and just go for it. Dive in. Jump in. Okay.
Yeah, or we could first see if there's questions.
Yeah, okay, so let's check to see if anyone has any questions. And then if you want us to model a little bit using the board and the alpha board, we'll be happy to do that for you.
So should I stop share? I'll stop share so we can see everybody. Okay, questions. Okay. You're still here, yay.
Didn't go away.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions or want us to explain something, or if you maybe you've tried something like this and it's worked and it's been successful, or you've tried it and it's been challenging?
Feel free to unmute yourselves and go ahead. Yes, Boris.
Yeah, I just have a question in terms of the consistency of the images, because I know that, sometimes you come across one system,
Yes.
the Toby or whatever, or a low-tech system. How does one keep all of that in check? Because it seems with every new thing that comes around, there's all these different symbols, and I imagine that would really confuse the child.
It's definitely best if you have, like, if your child is used to a symbol set, that's what you should stick to. Honestly, I use the super core because that's what I see that's what we see most girls in the Rett community using. It's not the only thing they're using for sure. So yeah, good question.
And is that the same one that would be used in Communicator, for example, or are those different symbols?
Well, Communicator, it acts like Sonoflex.
Well, like on a Toby, the Communicator 5, for example.
Well, Communicator 5 would have different AAC apps within it. So I think it's Sonoflex. And honestly, I don't know what Sonoflex uses.
Mm-hmm.
It might be
Communicator 5 runs the same symbols in Snap Core and
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, like if you anticipate someone going into a high-tech system and you think, okay, it might be Snap Plus Core, I like that one, it's good for scanning, then you can print off a low-tech, like a home screen of Snap Plus Core on their website, and you could use that to begin with for low-tech, so that you're starting them with what the screen will look like when they jump to high-tech, and it's not going to change, which is really ideal.
And on a related note, is the color coding that you've chosen fairly consistent with other platforms?
Yeah, they tend to make people words yellow.
Yeah.
Verbs are almost always green. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome. Yeah.
Hi, I have a question. So our daughter is 28. Communication has been an issue for a long time, and she's very mobile. So how do you work with all those when the individual is moving?
Well, I mean, you can model and use the core board. We use core boards with kids who have the whole gamut of mobility.
Mm-hmm.
I would think you're going to be carrying it along with you. Is she using her hands pretty good?
Well, we use eye gaze a lot.
Yeah.
So I see that all those symbols are so close together on your core board that I don't know how we're going to differentiate some of that. like
Right.
starting from scratch again, but communication has been so elusive all these years, and I really, wish that we could get it organized and get her to buy in. I know she can spell. We did have a volunteer augmentative communication therapist, but she will only work with that individual. She won't extrapolate that skill to other settings.
Right.
And so it's very difficult, but she can spell. She knows.
Which is incredible, because if you can
Mhm.
spell, you can say anything.
Yeah.
Right?
If she would buy in.
Yeah, you can do it with other
Yeah.
people. So,
Yeah.
I mean, mobile, I think even with the mobility, you're still expecting that yes, no response.
Yeah,
If
and
she's
so we use our hands a lot. We'll put our hand out and
Right.
say,
Or yes.
yes, no.
Yeah.
And then we'll switch it up, say, we'll listen carefully, because to cross over center line is hard for her. So sometimes you're not getting the right answer.
Right.
Yeah, so it's hard. It's hard, definitely. That
Yeah.
is our number one challenge, I think.
Yeah. And so mobile or not, you'd still be like, you would just be taking this with you
Mhm.
and pointing, like you would probably still have to do a lot of the input of
Mhm.
just I don't expect you to say anything to me, but I'm telling you what we're doing right now, right? We need to go. Come on, let's get ready. We're gonna go. We have an appointment at Sunny Hill, right? We are gonna get new AFOs, right? Because you need new
Mhm.
ones, whatever you're saying. You're doing a lot of input before it's gonna start to make sense.
Okay.
And you really, and this is important, like going back to that symbol set, it is important that you're super consistent with it, right? So if you have a child who is using SuperCore, then these are the same symbols. It's okay, right? But if you don't think that's going to be what they're using, then try to get a core board. They're easily available for download on most of the developers' websites, right? You can download them. To have that consistency, to not change the board because you think it's not working, just stick with it and keep going and do lots of input. Okay. And look and just get her yes, no response.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You know, sometimes hard.
Mm-hmm. Oh, just as an aside, I'm the person who was born in Wabash, and I've never heard anybody ever say that word.
Well, I wasn't expecting to see that in the chat because I've never had anybody else out here at least tell me that. So
I know my dad was in the mining industry, and we lived there for only about 6 or 7 months, I think. And then we moved. So I've never been back.
Yeah.
Any other questions or ideas to share? Experiences?
I do have a.
Oh, go ahead.
Go for it, Boris. You go right ahead.
Yeah, I just had, right now we're trialing, SetBC has approved some eye gaze systems for us. So we've trialed a Surface Pro, a Tobii. We're about to trial an i13 for about a month. And then we just had a Accent device for about a month. Now, my feeling about the Accent, it's a very approachable in terms of the screen layout and size and all that. But I'm just wondering, I have some reservations about, how many SLPs would know how to use that particular system. Is it?
Yeah, what vocabulary is on the Accent? Just curious.
Well, I mean, we're actually, I don't know what the name of the vocabulary is.
Yeah.
I just recognize the icons. They're definitely not the stick figures that I saw in the Communicator 5, for example. They were more colorful pictures, like a sun or something like that. As opposed to the stick figures, right, that you see, or at least that I've seen in the Communicator.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, communicator, you can kind of put in whatever vocabulary you want. It's like grid 3 that way. It's like so you could put snap plus core into communicator 5 and use that, or you can use sonoflex. So
Mhm.
like communicator 5 itself is not the AAC vocabulary, so it depends on what you use. But to me, it sounds like that's MinSpeak,
Mhm.
which is actually quite a complex system. And I don't really know. I don't think MinSpeak is widely used here, not in my experience. And we certainly do see a lot more Tobies and Surface Pros than we see accents, for sure.
Right. So on that level, locally anyway, the Toby would be a more familiar tool.
I would say yes, especially for is it eye gaze?
Mhm.
Yeah, I have never seen an accent used for eye gaze, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
Any other questions? I'll throw a couple out there that kind of popped up into my head as you were going through. Is it okay to use partner assisted scanning while you're still modeling?
Oh, like during the phase where you're
Yeah,
input?
yeah.
I think that that's okay. Yeah, I mean, when you're thinking when they're not really, they're maybe not really sure what the icons are.
Like allowing them to explore and stuff like that, right? That would be an exploratory phase.
I would think so. You could do that. I mean, you could do the same thing with the letterboard on the back, and you would call it scribbling if you think that they're not yet literate, right? That's okay. It's like babbling or scribbling, and that's fine, right? And I think if they're interested, you should absolutely do that.
Another question that had popped up for me is when we are doing partner assisted scanning, you had mentioned that we could go down in rows or columns. Is there any benefit to calling out every square? Saying
Beginning.
I, my, he, she. Is it in column 1? I, he, she, me.
You know what? When they're still learning them, you almost have to. But if you could, like you saw from that last video, that young man knew that board. He knew it so well that she just had to say, is it in this row? Is it in this row? Is it in this row? But he's at a point where he knows that board really well. And I think if they don't know it really well, then having that, individual highlighting plus you saying the word is still really valuable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Sure, they hear them.
We got that, but just checking.
I know it's seems a bit tedious in the beginning, maybe. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just looked at some notes I had. So yeah, it looks like the system was Unity 28. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, MinSpeak.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, which is a fascinating system.
Mhm.
Yeah. I feel like it's more complex.
Okay.
Personally. Semantic compaction. Yeah. But theoretically, you should be able to say more using fewer buttons.
Right.
With that system. Yeah.
May I ask, is that a phrase-based communication system? No? Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, you can create sentences. If that's what you mean.
But I think the icons are single words, right? Like this.
Yes.
Like.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Phrase, yeah. But there should be room for phrases for sure. Actually.
We do have one question that says, will we have access to the recording after? Absolutely. This will be posted on our website at a later date, including the handouts. So if you've missed any part of the recording, or if somebody has not been able to attend, it will be available. Any other questions? All right. Well, I would love to say thank you so much to both Karina and Jennifer. I think this is an incredible session that you guys have put on that has allowed us to really start to learn where to start and where we can build on communication systems if you only had yes, no, or we're only making choice of 2 items. So thank you so much.
Welcome. Our pleasure.
So
Thank you. That was very, very helpful.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was really, really useful.
would it be okay, Jennifer and Karina, if we add your contact information to our website?
Yep.
Just in case anybody wants to get in contact with you at a later date. Thank you. All right. Well, then, thank you very much, everybody, for attending. And you will get your core board and your certificates for those that are using it, that need it for their continuing education. And we will send those out to you as soon as the floods will allow us to get them to you. So thank you so much, everybody, and have a wonderful night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. There we go. There's always one straggler. You guys did amazing.
Was it okay?
You did amazing. That, you know what, all those people that were there, or a lot of them that I know that were there, they have no, like, they're just at the real core, the start of it. And some of them are jumping, like Boris. They're going from nothing and they're trying to get a communication system, and it's going to be a long learning process for them. So
How old is their daughter?
what's that?
How old is their daughter?
She is 14, 15.
Oh, great.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but they've got a few, like they've had a few roadblocks. Like it's actually technically not even his daughter.
Yeah.
Aw.
Oh.